Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Former president and a great president, Ronald Reagan, our 40th American president, said these words: Republicans believe every day is the 4th of July, but the Democrats believe every day is April 15th. How true. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot to call in and give us our Pledge of Allegiance on a Monday. Lunch Bunch Week on Thursday. Oh, thank you very much. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and good morning to you and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services. Always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, let's have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, buddy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, Doug, while I've got you on the line here for a moment, a little bit we're going to be discussing these pathetic rioters and burners and everything else. So you might want to call back in a few minutes, but boy, this has got to stop. A1 stop right now.
Yes, and I've heard that some of them are being paid to do this.
I have heard the same rumor. You know, I don't deal in speculation like I've said 1,000 times on this program, but there have been intimations that perhaps George Soros and Michael Moore and others, like also Al Sharpton, have contributed to the go ahead, start trouble, make trouble, burn, etc. And if that's true, I think that this administration currently, Obama, should absolutely take the high road and arrest all of them and put them up on charges.
Well, if you sponsor something like that, isn't that domestic terrorism? Isn't that inciting violence?
It is. It's insurrection to a felonious degree, and I absolutely, honestly, for the police right now, and I've got to get into the weather, but I'll say this. I absolutely would take the stand that if there is somebody breaking and burning and destroying businesses, those poor business owners, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, are absolutely, they're going to have their insurance rates go up. They might not have the money to reopen, etc. I think the police have got those blackjack batons for a good reason. Start using them.
Hear.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. Thank you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, I'll be there. I got to get the weather in. Stand by. You're the next caller, I promise. Weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And boy, oh boy, have they got a lot of ceramic tiles in stock for only 99 cents per tile. And they've got Oakley Stone, $1.50 a slate. You better stop in and see them today for all your home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And now, here's the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch as we saddle up and ride again for the week. Mostly sunny skies for today. Absolutely beautiful. High of 64 with an overnight low of 35. For tomorrow, even better, sunny skies, high of 65 with an overnight low of 38. Now for Wednesday, everything's going to be changing, going to feel like November, actually. Rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are picking up, high of 42 with an overnight low of 26. Thursday, we do have a chance of morning snow showers, plus winds are going to be picking up to about 25 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 42. That is your weather for Zev at the Ranch.
All right, Gina, thank you very much. Brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. Wonderful people serving you. Lunch Bunch coming up on this Thursday at 11:30 at Denny's Restaurant. We'll tell you more about that later on, but caller, stand by. I'll be right there. Darrow's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They can clean anything, and they can restore items, too. You better get in there today. If you've been hunting, and don't just throw that sleeping bag up in the attic and say, well, wait till next year. Get everything clean so it's livable next year. Take it into Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. The best. 1223 Albion Avenue. Kevin and Cindy, stop in and see them today. Also, our thanks go out to SafeLink Internet, and they've extended their hours of technical support, and they absolutely are fast. They get the job done for you, reliable. Yes, sirree, Bobby. And they've got over 10,000 customers right here in this area now. Call and add yourself to the very happy number at 677-8000. SafeLink Internet, you give them a call today. Caller, I appreciate your patience. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Tony.
You know, all these riotings that we have now are planned diversions.
Mm-hmm.
And when these diversions are going on, I'd like to know just how many terrorists have and drug cartel members have gotten into our countries and have dispersed all over the place. And this is part of the plan I think the Democratic Party has.
Yeah. To absolutely pull the loose thread and fray the garment. That's what they're after. They're looking for a fraying, if you will, of our Constitution, our value system, our laws, and just what's right is now becoming wrong. Wrong is becoming right. Tony, I'm not going to pull any punches on this stuff. I absolutely am adamant that there needs to be some head knocking going on in Portland and Seattle and Chicago and other places. If they're going to break the law, they have to be treated as lawless people, and there has to be arrest and there has to be restitution to the businesses that they're destroying.
Absolutely. You know, anytime somebody mentions the Democratic Party, the first thing that comes to my mind is socialism and communism.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you don't look at it that way, but that's the feeling I get.
Well, I just think that I'll tell you who's really dropped the ball. I never have thought much of him. I don't like him. I'm very prejudiced against him as a politician, and that's Barack Obama. He should have come out immediately and said, no more of this violence, no more of these riots, no more of the burnings, no more of walking down the street smashing storefront windows. Stop it, knock it off. We're going to call in the guard. We're going to get rid of you. Absolutely low-life people, but nothing's been done, and this is insane, Tony.
Well, Obama and the Clintons are enjoying every minute of these rioting, and I hope the people out there start contacting their congressmen that we've got now and start complaining about that.
I agree. Tony, always good to hear from you. How's Mary doing?
Oh, she's a lot better.
Well, yeah. Good. You go give her a great big kiss.
A pioneer woman.
All right. God bless you both. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. By golly, I'll tell you what. Did you hear about what Gina said on the forecast? I mean, towards midweek, boom, it's going to get chilly. You'd better make sure that your furnace is working efficiently and get those furnace filters ready because it's going to drop down off the cliff. We've got days looking like it's only going to be in the high 30s for temperatures. Oh, my. Get ready. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Open 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric. I'll be right there, caller. Stand by. Don't forget, this Thursday is Lunch Bunch Day at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and we're going to have a ball. My goodness, did you hear about all these delicious additions to their great menu, like pumpkin cream pancake breakfast, 2 fluffy pancakes layered and topped with pumpkin cream, eggs, hash browns, choice of bacon or sausage links. I'm on my way. My goodness, that sounds good. And all the food is good, and the service is great at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 Overland in Burley, and 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. And don't forget Lunch Bunch this Thursday at 11:30. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Ball. The question I've got, what's the difference between these protesters and the gangs? They go after the gangs, but they let the protesters slide.
You know, I can't answer that question because I don't think there is a difference. I think that they're lawbreakers. I think they're absolutely insurrectionalists. I think that they need to have some of their heads absolutely with a billy club next to them for their attitude and actions. They showed on the news one person in particular with a steel pipe going down the row of stores and merchants' buildings and smashing glass. These are nothing but thugs and punks. They call themselves millennials. I've got a different word for them. I think they're absolutely destitute of any civil action whatsoever. Go in, get them, and if you have to do a little roughing up with these people, so be it, but get them arrested.
Yes, and that's the only thing they haven't done is kill somebody, but there was in Ferguson where one got shot by one of the protesters, so there's not dimes over the difference between any of them.
George, let me ask you a question here. If you went on the square in Rupert right now this morning, right this very minute, and took a lead pipe and walked around the square and smashed windows, how far would you get before somebody of police authority would have you handcuffed and off to jail?
I'd probably make it to about the second window.
Yeah, that's my point. It's illegal. It's absolutely destroying people's lives and hopes and dreams with their business. And you can imagine, George, what's going to happen with these burnings and everything else. The insurance rates are going to go sky high, and many of these business owners might not be able to recover financially. And why should they have to? These are absolute vermin. These millennial punks that are worthless doing this kind of activity.
Yes, and our government created them because they're all gimme. They got their hands out. They're not respectful of anybody except themselves. They feel that we owe them everything.
I couldn't agree more. I am very, very emotional about this subject because it's absolutely insane to let these kids off the hook. And I say kids. For anybody that looked, George, on the cover of the USA Today the other day, and they showed a picture of these millennials, and all of the people in this picture, I've got it right here in my hand, some of them barely look like they're 16 or 17. Some look maybe 30, but the 30 and under crowd is being absolutely stirred up by the liberal left, and it's got to stop. Heads have got to be a little bit lumpy because they've got to go in there and take care of this.
That's just like Tony said earlier this morning, that they're paid to do it, and to them it's a job.
Yeah. George, God bless you, man. It's good to hear from you.
Thanks.
All right, take care, my friend. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I want to remind everybody, we've got a lot of businesses that are wishing you a happy Thanksgiving, like Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West of Paul, and also at Red Cap Corner on Kimberly Road in Kimberly. Your Zomatic dealer, they will get you wet. And believe me, they know irrigation and can help you. Butte Irrigation. Along with our friends at Alaska's Best, 504 7th Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, what a great place to eat, and what nice people they are. Oh my goodness, they've been voted having the best fish available in the area. All the grilled trout and the deep fried prawns, everything. You stop over to Alaska's Best. They say happy Thanksgiving at 504 7th Street in Rupert. And we're going to be telling you about a big Thanksgiving deal over there too. Along with Magic Valley Irrigation, 44 East, 500 South of Burley. All the area farmers and ranchers, thank you for a job well done again in 2016 with all the production of food that you do for us. And Jeff and the crew over at Magic Valley Irrigation say, happy Thanksgiving. Well done. Thank you, folks. We appreciate you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Again, sir. I was reading a deal of Bobby Kaufman. He's an Iowa State House representative, and he is putting a bill forward, Suck It Up Buttercup. And he is looking into the colleges and high schools that spend money on these safe places, cry zones as he calls them.
Yeah.
And whatever taxpayer dollars is being spent to create these, he's going to deduct 3 times that much from their budget.
Yeah. Doug, I'm going to share this with you in the audience. I think you'll find it extremely interesting. At 9:06 this morning, coming up at the beginning of next hour, I have been given the opportunity to discuss this problem about the millennials with a millennial. Her name is Gabrielle Jackson Boucher, and she's written a book about this. And we're going to discuss from her age bracket why this insanity with these punk kids doing all this trouble. It should be very enlightening.
Well, that's good. I think our taxpayer dollars being spent on this stuff is baloney, and I agree with this man.
Why aren't they arrested and booked on every charge possible? And like I said a moment ago, Doug, if that was your business and you're living maybe hand to mouth on keeping the doors open and somebody comes by and destroys your business, don't you feel that, my goodness sake, something has to be done and these people have to pay the recompensation back to you and others?
I do agree. They should not get a free pass. I also agree, too, with some things I've heard that if you get arrested for protesting and you're on welfare, you should lose your benefits.
Absolutely. Of course, I'd like to see that whole program renovated and redistributed to those absolutely in need and not a giveaway, people, to many that are too dadgum lazy to get up off the couch.
Right, and I'm also hearing, too, that they're going to bring back the work program where they've got to do some work for their welfare.
Amen. That's what the Bible tells us. Work or you don't eat.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
God bless.
All right, caller number 2, I'll be right there. Stand by. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, my goodness. Nick Greenwell, physical therapist, and all the physical therapists. My gosh, these people are great, helping you get back to being you. They know all the exercises. They know all the sports medicine. They've got the only hydrotherapy pool in the area with that treadmill in the bottom. Oh, that works. Let me tell you, I love it. 678-1191, the number to call. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation in Burley. 678-1191. You call them for an appointment today. And real quick, caller, stand by. Barry Equipment and Rental, 3 locations to serve you. And you know they have the equipment to get the job done right. And they're located at South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Listen to this. On used rental Bobcat equipment, 0% interest on 48 months if you want to buy it. 0% interest on 48 months. Oh, my. You'd better get in there today. Barry Equipment and Rental. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Well, good morning, old buddy.
Yes, sir.
You know, that quote you gave on Ronald Reagan right at the beginning, that date in April should have been the 1st of April because that is April Fool's Day. And that's what the Democrats have done, is fool us.
Well, yeah, to the extent, but they lost the election. And now all these crybaby insanity pleas to get rid of the Electoral College. You know something? If you don't want to have your vote count, all you have to do is go in favor of not having the Electoral College. There would be no reason for Idaho to have any voting privileges whatsoever, because then if they go strictly popular, it'll go primarily to what the whims and wants of L.A., San Francisco, Chicago, New York, etc. want. Boy, we better be real careful about what the Democrats are pushing now.
Yeah. But, you know, there's one thing about the... I was trying to think of what I was going to say now.
Are you having a senior moment?
You know, the insurance companies seems like they never go broke. They just raise the rates.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think for 1 minute that all the money they put out on these riots and everything to repair these businesses, it isn't those businessmen only that get hurt. It's all across the United States.
That's right.
Because they got to spread their losses.
That's exactly right. Yep. Keith, I'm telling you, I am so mad, literally mad over this lack of Obama leadership over this issue. It's not Trump's problem. He's not. He's the president-elect. We've still stuck with about how many more days of Obama? 66 days left with Obama. And it's he's the president of the United States. Have you seen him on television making pleas to stop this insanity? No. The man has not done anything. The man will not do anything. He's not capable of stopping problems.
He's reveling in it.
I believe you're right.
Reveling in it. He'll try to convince the people you should have stayed with me.
Yeah.
Henry, and we wouldn't have these problems.
Yeah, well, we'll see. My friend, thank you so much. God bless you. I got another call. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, caller, I'll be there in a minute. Stand by. I want to remind everybody about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Oh, my goodness. The number to call over at Mount Harrison Audiology, 3120957. Oh, my goodness. If you're having hearing problems and you can't hear your grandkids when they say, Grandpa, what's the matter? You better be sure and get your hearing checked. Get a hearing screening today, and she can and she will help you. Please call Dr. Christine Pickup at 3120957 today. The only locally owned and independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho serving you. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Wonderful, wonderful people. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Zeb, how are you?
I'm upset as usual. Go ahead.
I like the sound of that. I got in the truck today, and for some reason, I turned on the radio and NPR was on. I have not listened to NPR in years. And the rhetoric I heard out of NPR and them pushing still the Obama liberal narrative was incredible. Like, it is incredible how biased they are. And I see that, I guess that's how you are when you're funded by the government and you suck money out of people thinking that you're getting real news.
What are some of the points that they brought up that they thought were absolutely essential for us to live by?
Well, it was mostly about downing Trump. Every time they talked about Trump, they referenced him as president-elect, and if he gets in the White House, they talked about almost all Trump supporters are racist. Almost all Trump supporters are white. And, I mean, the narrative just went on and on. I couldn't believe it, that's what people are listening to on the public radio. And when I talk to people about this, they tell me, well, I don't know what kind of news you're listening to because MSNBC and all these other places are saying this. You seem to be getting this special news from somewhere special. And I tell them, I look for it.
Yeah.
I search for the truth.
Yeah. You know, I can guarantee what you said is correct, and I'll give you an example of how correct you are. Jennifer Rubin is, I believe, writes for the Washington Post, and I'm just going to read a paragraph to you, and then I want you to respond to it. It just absolutely offended me. Hold on, here it is. They were shocked and horrified because Trump won these people over by playing to their worst instincts. He dealt out xenophobia, racism, misogyny, and contempt for science, and the Trumpkins ate it up. You know what? If that's not divisive, and that's not criticizing and dehumanizing and demeaning those that voted for Donald Trump, I don't know what is. What are your thoughts?
Well, I hear people all the time say Trump's going to do this and Trump's going to do that. And, you know, Trump's going to send everybody home. Trump's going to, and I just tell him, he never said that. Like MSN said that, or even Fox sometimes says things like that. Megyn Kelly, along with a bunch of her cronies. But I said, if you listen to his speeches, he never said any of that.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
All driven by the media, and until those people are basically locked up for perjury and locked up for, defamation of character. And, I mean, if they don't get put in their place, they're just going to keep pushing this narrative, and we're going to have something really bad in this country, which is a divided America, which I think Trump's trying to, trying not to have that.
Yeah, I will say...
As far as the millennials, I just feel sorry for them. I mean, they were brought up in this world. They're being bombarded on all sides by every type of media, the movie, the music that they listen to, the news. And then all they're doing is stuffing their face with corn syrup. No one knows how to make a decent meal at that age, from scratch. And, we wonder why we have these problems.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well,
I'm married to a millennial, and she is a great cook, and she's one of the few that's, she's 35, so she's right at the top there. And when I met her, she was liberal. Her family's liberal. And, I showed her the facts, the truth, and she gradually came around and found out that, wow, I've been lied to my whole life.
May I make a suggestion for a happy home? I wouldn't throw it in her face that she was a past liberal millennial. And if you do, you might always want to check your oatmeal in the morning.
Oh, yeah, it always has to be their idea.
Okay, buddy. I got to run. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Deb.
This absolute division by the liberal left. Here's the headline that Ruben had on her story. Trump voters. We did hear you. We just thought better of you. Oh, please. What kind of an elitist attitude is that? It's like so condescending, like, we thought better of you. We thought you'd see the light. Well, that is so condescending and so elitist, and I'm sick of it. I am absolutely sick of it, and I'm going to keep calling spades on this program. I've got to give away a dozen cookies right now to Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness. Hey, by the way, one of her waitresses is doing a senior project at the restaurant, Operation Christmas Child. If you'll bring in any item for a child, toothbrushes, socks, undies, crayons, backpacks, anything, the items will be shipped all over the United States and the world, for that matter. What a great senior project this is. And by the way, when you bring in an item, you'll get a free cup of coffee or hot chocolate, whatever. Hey, get on in there to Sophie's Chatterbox. Here is, for first-time winners only, the question. This is an easy one today. Get ready for an easy one. Name the host of the 60s TV show and great music show, American Bandstand. Name the host of the 60s American Bandstand. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And you might be the winner of a dozen cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox. Give us a call real quick. By the way, while I'm waiting for your call, which I'm sure is coming in, don't forget Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street in Hayburn. Oh, they've got the warm hearts for cold noses. Yes, sirree, Minnecache's best veterinary hospital. It's been voted that many, many times. Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the whole crew serving you. It's a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all at Ark Animal Hospital in Hayburn. Good people. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Talk to me, caller. Go ahead.
Dick Clark.
What's your name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte what?
Reedy.
Charlotte, what's your favorite cookie?
Chocolate chip.
Well, why don't you ask them to make you some?
I will do that.
All right, you're the lucky winner. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right, Charlotte Reedy. Dick Clark, that guy was ageless. Oh, my goodness. He was really something to the music industry, and he could make bad acts and bad singers, I think, really have a good career. I mean, he was just absolutely a good guy when it came to all the music. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert, sponsoring our cookie giveaway for this morning. Congratulations. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, yesterday morning I was sitting down watching, the morning news, and there was a panel on with Maria Bartiromo, I think. and one of them was Julie Roginski, and I've talked about her in the past. She is, well, whatever. And she had talked last week about, Trump wanted to reopen the coal mines in West Virginia, and she said, well, we can't open them again. Like, these people don't matter. And Waters had just showed her what a devastating thing had happened to those people. Well, yesterday she says, I guess we just don't realize we live in an ivory tower. We live in Washington, D.C. We live in Boston. We live in New York City. We live on the East Coast, the West Coast. We just don't realize what you people really are thinking. And I'm going, if you look at a picture of the map of America in the red, when you break it down, there is hardly any blue.
That's right.
And so you say to yourself, are you really that stupid? Or are you that detached? Do you ever really land anywhere besides wherever it is you go and try to get to know people? Why don't you come to Idaho and come out here and see what people do when they harvest crops or milk cows or, have mama cows on the ranch? I mean, do you know diddling?
And the problem, Randy, the problem is you hit it right on the head about how naive these people are. I was shocked many, many times in the last couple of days since the election, and I'm glad you highlighted this. I was shocked by some of the absolute brain-dead language that the elitists are using on television. Well, we didn't know. Well, they catered to this working class. Why, they were catering to those that are in flyover country. How dare they? What good are they? Who do they represent? That type of thing. You know what? The working class people in America, I think for the first time in many, many elections, have been respected by their vote. And I hope these elitists absolutely try jumping out of basement windows.
Well, if you heard Dan Jones, he said, and I know I got to get off here, and he said, well, I can't talk to my children about being a bully or being a homo, whatever it was he said. But he's a loud communist. And I says, well, what about what those communist leaders have done through the years to the poor people of those countries, murdered millions upon millions of them? You see, it doesn't matter. It's such an illogical. They're just. I tell you what, Deb. What happened to them is good, and I just hope Donald Trump, his cabinet is going to be tough, and I think it will be, and he, follows through on his promises.
I agree. Randy, God bless, man. Thanks a lot for your call. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, some of the things that these people are saying, about us, I did not want Hillary Clinton in office. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to share this with you real quick. I did some research into some of the quotes. Now, these are quotes that have been compiled about certain things that Hillary said in the last 10 years or so. This one was when she was giving a speech about It Takes a Village. She said, quote, I believe the primary role of the state is to teach, train, and raise children. Parents have a secondary role. Here's another quote from Hillary. I will get the NRA shut down for good if I become president. If we can ban handguns, we will do it. That is with an interview with the Des Moines Register. These lists of things that she has said and done as a commitment to the liberal left go on and on. I am glad that Hillary is now a spectator. I am glad that she is now just nothing more than a walk in the park with Big Bubba and a couple of dogs and Secret Service people. I am glad that she has been relegated away from politics. She is now, to use the term, a non-combatant and not even worthy of discussing. However, the Clinton machine is still alive and well, and I fear them. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There's some people on my program as advertisers that, man, I tell you what, I just am bowled over by their attitude of professionalism, and I feel that way about Streamline Precision and what the great job that Tim and the rest of the crew do. They have the pre-engineered steel buildings. They sell Nucor and Prime and Sucup, and they really want you to call them for the work you need done this winter. Oh my goodness, these winter months, they can get all these buildings erected for you on your farm, your dairy, your ranch, etc. All you have to do is call my friend Tim Vaughn, 431-7314. Streamline Precision, and they build things right. You get a hold of them today. Let's not forget, too, our friend. Oh, my goodness, yes. I got to brag on this man, too. I brag on all my people on this program because they're so nice and they're so hardworking. Zach over at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, and they sponsor Dr. History, and that's on tomorrow at 10:06. And don't forget, they've got all your metal roofing material, and they've got all your lumber packages. And, oh, by the way, you heard that weather forecast. Old Man Winter is going to be, blowing through here on Wednesday and Thursday, and you better upgrade your windows to the Western windows and keep that cold winter air outside. You call Zach or stop in at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, 878-2091. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to go back and ask you, honestly, why are these punks, why are these millennials, why are these rioters, why are these property destroyers getting a free pass? Why aren't they being arrested en masse? Why aren't they being caught during their actions by the police and literally dragged by the collar to a paddy wagon? Why are they getting basically not even a slap on the wrist? Why? You know, if I were a property, and I know this may sound harsh, but I don't care. America's got to clean up its act. In the Old West, out here, in the old days, if somebody was doing something to destroy property and maybe endanger lives, there were repercussions, and a lot of backlash against them, to the point where they might not ride out of Dodge City. They knew that wrong was wrong and right was right. But these kids going down the street with lead pipes and baseball bats and destroying property and throwing cigarette lighters inside and everything. These poor property and business owners have done nothing wrong except open a business with their heartfelt dreams that they want to be successful, and then some punk millennial goes by and just starts it on fire. And nothing is done. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, that's just criminal. I think these rioters are just sick people. Why doesn't the Democrats follow the advice they gave us when they put their president in last term? We lived with him for 8 years, and we'll let him ride it out till the end. I think he should have been impeached the first year, personally. And I kind of blame our Senate and our House for that. And I'm pretty upset with them about going along to get along attitude they had over the years. We kept going further and further and further into debt, and we just ate them problems over and over.
Yeah.
We created racism. We created a barrier with our police officers and stuff. I just thought it was ridiculous.
It is.
Be supporting the people that are enforcing the laws.
Well, wait, right there, Jerry, supporting the laws. Evidently, the law of right and wrong, and what's wrong is going to get you in trouble, is not being affected anymore. And I think every one of these people, whether it's in Portland, Seattle, whether it's L.A., Chicago, I don't care where it is, if you're out there and you're not a protest. I'm not saying arrest protesters. They have a right to their free speech and they have a right to carry a picket sign. But when they start damaging property and putting people's lives at risk, nab them, cuff them, and throw them in a paddy wagon and then go to jail.
And let's prosecute them and keep them there.
I agree. Jerry, God bless you, man. Appreciate your call.
You have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless you and your whole audience.
I thank you.
Well, I guess you did have a happy anniversary.
I did, and thank you, as always, for your kind thoughts and card. Thank you, Jerry. God bless you, man. Thanks. All right. By the way, quickly, caller, before I do the weather, I want to say thank you to everybody that wished Deanne and I a very happy anniversary. Our anniversary was this last week, and we certainly appreciate all your kind thoughts. Thank you very much. I got to get a weather on here, caller. I'll be right with you. The weather is brought to you by the Urgent Cares. Kyle, James, and the rest of the crew at Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland in Burley. Twin Falls Urgent Care, of course, at 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin Falls, and Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. They really care about you and will take care of you. So please stop in today. Don't forget your flu shots, and they can help at all the urgent cares. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb Ranch as we saddle up and ride again for the week. Mostly sunny skies for today. Absolutely beautiful. High of 64 with an overnight low of 35. For tomorrow, even better, sunny skies, high of 65 with an overnight low of 38. Now for Wednesday, everything's going to be changing, going to feel like November, actually. Rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are picking up, high of 42 with an overnight low of 26. Thursday, we do have a chance of morning snow showers, plus winds are going to be picking up to about 25 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 42. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow. I mean, break out the long johns. Holy cow. Brought to you this hour by, of course, the Urgent Cares. Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin Falls, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. They can and will help you. Thank you. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning again. You know, in Arizona, Sheriff Opaio was defeated.
Yep.
And that was really a sad thing because he is still in office, and I haven't heard anything about Phoenix rioting and doing those things because I think he's still in charge.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Like him, throwing him out of office.
I agree with you. Sheriff Joe Arpaio was basically ridden out of office on a government rail. In other words, the federal government was after him. The Obama administration was after him. The Department of Justice was after him. They were doing everything they could to not let him be reelected again. He has served this country well as a sheriff that was long outstanding for following the law and getting rid of the bad people on our streets, and I wish him well, but I'll tell you what, they're going to sorely miss a man like Joe Arpaio.
I agree with you, and you know, Phoenix has been a pretty calm place for over the years. If you flew into Phoenix probably many times.
Yep,
but
that's right.
Park that's fairly close to the airport, where these vagrants hang out, they pitch their tents and everything. Have you ever seen that?
You can find all of that just down the road in Salt Lake City, my friend.
But, I mean, I think for the amount of people that cross that border and come in and do all these, you know, these bad people, they seem like as soon as they get to Phoenix, they spread out.
Yeah.
They don't want to hang around there because Sheriff Joe Arpaio will put them in jail.
And quite frankly, that's the way it should have been. Keith, God bless you, man. I appreciate your thoughts again, as always. Thank you. You know, I want to talk about black on white hate crimes. But, no. They're not going to be prosecuted as such. Oh, it was just a beating. Oh, well, it was just, they got unruly and they beat this man up. It was just random. No, it wasn't. I'll talk about that in just a minute. There is a great big cattle sale coming up, and that is going to be on November 19 with the junior fitting and showing, and then the next day on Saturday the 20th at the Molson, Angus, and Hereford Ranch. Oh, my goodness, at 3135 Elmore Road between Parma and Fruitland. And these folks, the Molsons, have put together an outstanding sale. All the animals have been vaccinated and ready for shipment, and I'll tell you what, call them today for more sale information. 208 888-739-0725. Quality always comes first with their bull and female sale at the Molson, Angus, and Hereford Ranch between Parma and Fruitland. Coming up November 19th, and the sale on the 20th. Don't miss it. It's going to be dandy. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell.
Well, hi there.
This morning.
I'm really upset about the way that we're being so lax on literally rounding up these punk millennials and these troublemakers and throwing them in the pokey.
You know, I'm totally with you. Why do, this is just my opinion, and I know people are going to think I'm, not very nice, but why don't they bring in the National Guard, put the fire trucks in front of the National Guard, hose them little sons of guns down. If they get past the hoses, wipe them out. They don't belong there anyway. These thugs and wannabe gangsters, it's filth. They have no common sense whatsoever. And I'm sick of the media egging them on.
Well, I agree with you, Donna. But Donna, do you get a national paper, Donna? Are you there? I said, do you get a national paper like USA Today or the Wall Street Journal or anything like that?
No.
If you get a chance, go on your computer and look at some of the gangs of these punk kids called millennials that are protesting and burning and everything else, and look at their faces. I've got a colored picture right here in front of me that came out of the USA Today, and the lion's share of these punks, probably they're 20 or under. I'm looking at two people right in the front that look like they're at the very most 14 or 15 years old. These people don't have a clue. They never had any responsibility. They've never had to make ends meet and feed a family or keep a job. And I'm sick and tired of them being incensed by the liberal left and paying this kind of a absolute atrocity against our system.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you. They need to put Soros, Reid, Pelosi, Obama, and the whole dadgum smear of them idiots. I shouldn't call them idiots, but anyway, put them in the front line. Why hasn't President Obama come out and said, you know what, stop the nonsense?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just utter nonsense. It's total destruction. They don't give a dang. They don't respect themselves, let alone anybody else.
I agree.
We need to bring in the National Guard and take them out. I
agree. Donna, thank you, and I'm so glad to hear your voice on the phone. The old feistiness is coming back. Good for you.
It is. George told me I need to go back to the doctor.
God bless you, Donna. Thank you.
Wants me to get a relaxer pill, but it's like, you know what? No, it ain't going to work.
That a girl.
Have a great day, my friend.
That a girl. Thank you so much. Love that lady. She's a nice gal. Hey, by the way, I was going to tell you real quick, black on white hate crimes. I saw the video the other night. I got to get this in real quick. I saw the video of what happened in Chicago. A group of black punks beat up a white man because he had a Trump bumper sticker on his car. He was getting out of his vehicle, and they were shooting the video on a cell phone, and some of these black punks went over and said, "Did you vote for Trump?" And he said, "Yes," and they just unmercifully beat him and kicked him and stomped him and wailed on him. And if that's not a black hate crime, I don't know what is. Oh, no, not in this society. Why, we've got to lessen the severity. Why, we can't have any problems. This man was kicked and punched on the ground until he was almost senseless, and that's not a hate crime? And these punks and thugs are not arrested? God help us. God help us. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All all 7 locations serving you, and it sounds like we're going to have some of that wintertime driving soon. And they've got a winter driving resource guide that absolutely is essential for you to know about the tire chains and the right tires for the different driving conditions. Stop in and talk to them a day about driving on ice, snow, and all the rain, and etc. They've got all the tires, all the different tread designs. They've got the best in brake service. They've got the best in front end alignment and shocks and struts and batteries. I'm telling you, for safety and peace of mind, you better get into your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, waiting to serve you. Coming up next hour at 9:06, don't miss Gabrielle Jackson Boucher. She is a millennial. She has written about millennials, and I think we're going to have quite an interesting conversation. I'll see you after the news from CBS. Wheels, take it away. Oh, good morning, good morning. Did you ever reach up and you're going to scratch your forehead a little bit and your fingers catch on your glasses and then you rip them off your nose and they end up on the floor? Well, anyway, that's just what I did. Good morning. Welcome back to Zev at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
The service is excellent. They take care of all of their customers, locally owned and operated. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today. Your garbage will be picked up weekly. It's gone. It's out of there. Wave goodbye to it. Absolutely. Call 734-6969. Western Waste Services, absolutely the best. By the way, when I say the words the best, I also talk about our weather sponsor at 8:06 every morning, and that's Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. They have whatever you need to make your house a home. Stop in or call 678-6945. Cheney Flooring and Home Design in Burley, serving you. Wonderful people. And, you know, by the way, before we get to our guest, I'm really excited to talk to that lady in just a moment. I want to remind you, too, about Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, the manager, his family, his staff, and all of these folks working diligently hard, always with the highest ethical standards and unquestioned integrity in serving you and your family when there's the passing of a loved one. Please, please, I urge you to get the pre-information on funerals and save your families a lot of the stress and worry. Number to call, 436-5636. Wonderful people. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Well, right now, I'm kind of curious as to how this conversation's going to go, and I'm going to introduce this lady, and I up front want to apologize if I mispronounce her name, but I'm going to give it a shot. Here we go. Gabrielle Jackson Boucher. How close was I?
You were absolutely spot on. Thanks so much.
You've got to be kidding me. What a great way to start an interview, because I wasn't quite sure. Thank you. Gabrielle, I got to tell you, too, up front, that I am 69 years old. I make no apologies for my age. I make no apologies for my thoughts, and I make no apologies for everything that I do and promote. I think the millennials are out of hand in this country. I think the millennials, most of them are spoiled brats, and most of them are looking for handouts from the government. Now it's your turn. Tell me how wrong I am.
Well, I don't think that you're wrong. I think you're fairly accurate when you're discussing a group of this millennial generation. But I think more than anything else, it's important to realize why we got to the way that we are. Many millennials are given a hard time as being the quote-unquote entitled generation. I wrote a book called 5 Millennial Myths, where I actually go through and explain a lot of those myths and stereotypes about who we are. But we are a generation that we did get participation trophies, and we were encouraged to talk more about our emotions and actually execute on things. And that's why we're seeing many of the challenges we're seeing now at the safe spaces on college campuses, is because we're a generation that unfortunately has been coddled to a large degree, and now we're really seeing the side effects of well-intentioned but poorly executed parenting.
Okay, now, whoa, stop right there. Excellent point. Well-intentioned, but not so well as far as doing a good job parenting. Define that. What do they need to get back to? The old days, like when I was a kid, you do something wrong, you suffer the consequences, and stop your doggone feelings of, oh, woe is me. The world does not owe these kids a favor. They need to get out and work and be responsible on their own. What would you say to that?
I couldn't agree more. I think that our generation is really, I'm 28 years old. I believe that my generation has really started off with really emotionally hamstrung, and that we haven't been able to really process and overcome large challenges, because those challenges have been, those battles have been fought for us by our parents or well-intentioned coaches or mentors. But I'm starting to see a transition in a small group of millennials who are saying, I don't want to be defined by my generation. 30% of millennials actually don't even call themselves millennials, because they either realize the bad PR, and in what you said before, it's a very widespread notion that we are, lazy and entitled and disloyal. But they said, I want to be defined by something more than by just the age group. And, I believe the economic recession was the best blessing that happened to my generation, because we graduated I graduated in 2009 from undergrad, and jobs were very difficult to come by. And so I believe that as we move into positions of leadership, by 2020, over 50% of the workforce is going to be millennial. So we are moving quickly into positions of leadership. And the choice is really on us of whether or not we're going to step up and act like the adults we want to be treated as, or we're going to continue having the challenge that we're having now with safe spaces, moving into the workforce.
Wow, I like you. I can tell you that right now. I was all set for a fight with a millennial, but I don't think so. We're on the same side this morning. God bless you, Gabrielle. Let me just say this, that education right now today is one of my biggest worries and my biggest concern. The millennials are going to school, they're going to college, and they want these weird type of jobs, whether it's studying gender identity or whatever, and then they graduate with a degree and they're not doing anything, they're not working, they're not being contributing factors to our economy and our United States. Why? Why are we worried whether they get free education or not with Hillary Clinton's stance? I mean, for Pete's sakes, I worked my way through college and got a degree. What's the matter with you and the other millennials working through college?
Right. It's true. We've been told, and I call it the millennial American dream, that we were told that you have to, do well enough in high school to get into college, and do well enough in college to graduate, before 6 or 7 years left up, and in order to get a quote-unquote good job. And when that good job didn't exist, or they weren't hiring, or we didn't like it, we started to move on. So we're really seeing what I call a generation of the most overeducated baristas on the planet, because we are dropping out of situations that we don't feel committed to and we're not passionate about. On the other side, we are a generation that is passionate about justice. We care about equality. We care about opportunity for others. But the left has fooled my generation into thinking that fairness equals justice. And that's just simply not the case. Fairness is a situation and justice is a principle. And our generation really needs to be challenged to think more critically. If we really do believe in diversity of thought, that means we need to accept those that believe something different than ourselves. And I do believe we're starting to see some small awakenings across the board, particularly with millennials who want to start businesses. 67% of my generation wants to start their own company one day. So how about we start talking about the economics of taxes and regulations and what kind of society they need to get on a show like Shark Tank? those are the types of conversations we need to start having today to win the generation tomorrow.
Let me ask you this, Gabrielle. How are we going to clean up the mess at major educational institutions and school districts across this country, where our kids are subjected to a left-leaning thought that they're something special, they're all blue ribbon and trophy winners, and then when they get out in the real world, they haven't got a clue? We got to clean up the education system first, don't we?
Absolutely. It's all about localizing the decision-making process. The largest challenge we have now is that we have a huge Department of Education making decisions for people living on the other side of the country. Millennials love farm to table. We love, local community, local coffee shops. Why don't we take education local? Why don't we have partnerships with companies that are actually hiring the next generation to have conversations about the skills that they need? 10 years ago, the number one challenge employers were having with a new generation was communication. The number one challenge that employers are now saying that their next generation staff has is time management. We are a generation that's so easily distracted and is having a very difficult time acclimating to the modern workforce because we're so used to being constantly entertained, whether it's through our iPhones or our iPads or, our Apple Watches. We're so used to the entertainment factor, and so when millennials come into a workforce that, work is work. That's why it's called work. I've seen many, unfortunately, dropping out and choosing alternative or no employment options instead of sticking it out and being contributing members of our society.
Gabrielle, I was looking this last couple of days at all the news stories that are going on with the millennials rioting, burning, destroying, and there was a composite picture in one of the major national newspapers the other day, and it showed probably in this picture you can see over maybe 200 faces. And as I looked at these faces, I've got to be very blunt and honest. There wasn't a face on these photos that was over 30 years of age, many of which looked like they were in their early teens, 12 and 13, joining a movement, yelling and screaming, carrying placards, and absolutely destroying businesses in some of the major cities like Seattle, Portland, etc. What's the matter with these kids, and where are their parents?
Well, and I would say, where are their brains? I think that in this country it's amazing that we have the right to protest, and I will support that every day of the week. It's heartbreaking for me as someone who is a millennial to see my generation who is choosing to act that way and fit every stereotype people have about us versus to, take the upper hand and say, hey, I may not agree with who was selected. He may not have been the person that I chose, but I'm not going to say that he's not my president. I'm not going to quit because I didn't win. I'm not going to take my ball and go home. But I'm going to open up a conversation with someone because I can tell you I've worked with the Trump campaign. I was in New York when he gave his acceptance speech, and I worked closely with him. And I know that his transition team is very readily accessible and very interested in connecting and engaging the next generation. And I believe that if millennials want to be treated like adults, we're going to have to start acting like adults and saying, hey, where can we agree on something? Because I may not agree with you 100%, but I want to partner with you and I want a friend in the White House, not an adversary.
Everything you're saying this morning is making me feel a lot better, and I know for a fact that you can't lump everybody into the same little bottle. And I know a lot of young people, 30 and under, that are hard workers. They've got their goals. They've graduated from their colleges and universities. They're lawyers, many of which are involved in agriculture, many of which are going back to help their dads and mothers run the family farm and ranch, many of which have a great work ethic. But this number of millennials on the streets, wearing all these insidious masks and going around with lead pipes and breaking windows and destroying private property, it's got to stop somehow, Gabrielle, and I honestly don't know what the answers are.
Well, I can tell you it's not organized by the millennials themselves. I mean, we are, in love with technology, and we can use technology to do great things, but this has been organized and planned for a very long time. We see the fingerprints of George Soros all over this. And again, it's frustrating for me to see my generation so willing to join a movement that doesn't actually represent their interests and is ultimately hurting their employment opportunities long term because they're choosing to react with emotions rather than reacting with street smarts. And so I believe that it's going to take my generation challenging ourselves. I don't think it can be, Xers, and I don't think it can be baby boomers saying, hey, you guys need to knock it off. I think that my generation as millennials, we need to say, hey, guys, we need to keep each other accountable. We have the most to lose if the next 4 years go bad. So how do we start thinking strategically about how do we, again, develop relationships with those in the Trump administration so that we can create more economic opportunity, more safety and security, and more affordable education for everybody. I mean, those are the core issues millennials care about. So rather than protesting, why don't we say, how do we develop a strategy and actually get something done rather than complaining about it?
And another thing, Gabrielle, that I see really diminishing in this country with the younger generation, and again, I'll blame education. I'll blame the elementary, the high school, and the college ranks for not keeping up a respect for this, the greatest country ever in the world's history. Respect for our flag. I don't want to see any more Colin Kaepernicks. Respect for what those have given for these millennials in blood, sweat, tears, and their lives. I just don't think the younger generation realizes how much has been given to them.
I would agree with that. I also have seen millennials who consider themselves more citizens of the world than citizens of the United States. When this is the first generation ever where we are the most diverse generation of American history, and we have more immigrants and children of immigrants than we've ever had. And so because of that, we should be a generation that respects diversity, that is, covered by the flag rather than being embarrassed of being who we are as the United States. And I think that we have really let globalism seep into, again, you're talking about the education system, but just into our mindset. Unfortunately, many, again, those well-intentioned parents that we had let the school system raise their children. And so because of that, we're seeing a disconnect between not only patriotism, but really an understanding of, what the flag means and what kind of blessings and opportunities that we have here in the United States. So as we, move towards our late 20s and early 30s, as we're seeing many millennials start to do, when you start to pay more taxes, when you're looking to purchase a home, that's really when you start to key into the policies that are being passed in Washington, D.C. that are affecting you. And millennials have no excuse for ignorance. We are the Google generation. If we don't know something, we can find an answer with a few swipes of an iPhone. So it's really, the responsibility is on us to do our homework and to understand not only the policies that are being passed, but the politicians who are participating in the process as well.
How come you're so advanced in your thinking as compared to other millennials? What happened to you? Do you give the credit to your family? Do you give the credit to your church? Do you give the credit to your school? All of the above. How come you understand what needs to be done and how to achieve it, and all these other masses don't?
I would definitely give credit to my family, to my church. My faith is really important to me. But it's also I study my generation for a living, right? I've built a career out of consulting Fortune 500 companies to help them understand how to connect with this generation. And so as someone who is what motivates millennials, I've had a really interesting look in a vantage point to say, what works with millennials and what doesn't. And I take a very honest approach. I think we are on an incredible generation. I think we have so much to offer. I also think that we have a lot of challenges as well. And so taking an honest approach and saying what are some of the goods and what are some of the bads and how do we partner with other generations to kind of mitigate those risks and build something better together, that's what I get really excited about, because I've seen not only in my own personal life but professionally the power that comes when you get, the 20-somethings and the 40-somethings and the 60-somethings all working together on things. Because that's what it's going to take for us to really make a difference here in America. It's not all about young people. It's not all about the older people. Really, it's about how we can all work together and to really build a better country and a better future.
When you are involved in this, I mean, I'm asking now because I don't quite understand what you do and I'm almost out of time, but do you have seminars? Do you sit down with like 50, 100 people in a room that absolutely have animosity against you because you're successful and work hard? Do you transition their thoughts? I mean, tell us a little bit about how you get them to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, we do seminars and workshops at universities for college students looking for jobs. We do executive briefs for top-level CEOs to help them understand who the next generation is and what makes them tick. And we do focus groups and actually conduct original research to figure out what's going on in the millennial mind, not just here in the United States, but abroad as well. So it's important to not only understand the data of what's going on, but translate it into an actual strategy for how you can reach this very large but very impressive generation.
When you go to these seminars, I mean, are you confronted with some of these millennials coming up and basically getting in your face and saying, no, you don't understand this, that, and the other? And what kind of satisfaction have you had seeing a transition of these people during one of your seminars?
Yeah, I've never had a millennial come up to me and say, I misrepresented our generation, which is very humbling. For many young people to come up and say, yeah, you actually explained who we are and I understand myself better, which is always helpful. But, for example, I work with many young people who, hate talking on the phone. Many parents of millennials complain that they text every time they call because millennials don't like talking on the phone. So we have these kind of awareness moments where people are like, I realize now that I don't like talking on the phone, but if I'm going to want to have a good relationship with my parent or my boss, I'm going to have to learn how they best communicate. So it's really a lot of awareness, it's a lot of empathy, but it's just opening up a conversation and allowing people to realize that we are very different between the generations and to celebrate those differences, but also, too, that the core has to start with respect. You have to give respect if you want to be respected.
Absolutely. Now, I want to applaud you. Tell us a little bit about your book, 5 Millennial Myths, the Handbook for Managing and Motivating Millennials. Where can people read this book?
People can check out the book. It's on Amazon. It's also on my website, Gabrielle Bosche, BOSCHE.com. And you can find free resources on millennial engagement. We have free webinars. I'm writing books and white papers constantly. I have a new book called The Millennial Entrepreneur about the future of entrepreneurship in the United States. And we're constantly creating resources to educate leaders to help them engage the next generation.
Wow. I want to say how much I'm honored to have you come on the program this morning, Gabrielle, and I certainly hope you'll consent to coming back in the future.
Yeah, count me in, Deb. Thanks so much for having me.
Gabrielle Jackson Boucher, and a wonderful young lady. I can't wait to read her book, 5 Millennial Myths, the Handbook for Managing and Motivating Millennials. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All righty. I enjoyed that. She really has her act together, and I appreciate that. And she gives me hope that with people like her, that the millennial generation will see the light sooner than later. Okay, let's see. Some companies and businesses that are wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving include Streamline Precision, 120 South, 100 West of Burley. You can save on steel buildings with their expertise in manufacturing and contracting. Streamline Precision has everything you need under one roof, and they want to extend to you a very happy Thanksgiving coming up in just a matter of days. Streamline Precision. And also Golden Valley Warehouse, 468 West, 1000 South of Burley, and they want to let all their customers know, hey, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. We treat everybody like family and friends. And on behalf of Golden Valley Warehouse, they say happy Thanksgiving and enjoy your family. And also, Streamline Precision, I mentioned just a moment ago, would like to encourage you to go up to a person in uniform, shake their hand, and say, thank you. Thank you. These are the men and women that put their lives on the line every day, and it makes America the best country in the world. And also a big thanks to the FFA and 4-H leaders, boys and girls. You're doing the right thing. From Streamline Precision, 120 South, 100 West of Burley. That was nice. I really appreciate that. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244. We're going to be going to the Alliance Defending Freedom in just a moment. Very interesting story here this morning. You don't want to miss it. And before we do, I want to remind you, too, about Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 5. Yeah, you heard the weather forecast just like I did. Gina had it on earlier and said we may, wake up to snow on Thursday morning. Well, get ready for the snow machining. That's right, snowmobiles from Let's Ride. Holy buckets, they got them all for you. They're getting new ones in every single day. Along with all the snow machines, they've got all the accessories. They've got a great service department. Oh, my goodness, might as well have fun this winter. Thanks to our friends at Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. 270 Highway 24 over in Rupert. And if you're in that neck of the woods or that part of the desert, don't forget Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, and so much more. They're really dedicated and responsive to your needs. Call them for an appointment today, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really, really good, folks. Let's go to the phone line right now, and we have with us an attorney with the Alliance Defending Freedom, and I believe I've had this gentleman on the phone once before. Let's say good morning to Tyson Langhofer. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Zeb. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Tyson, help me. I'm an old man. How long ago was it when I had you on the program?
It was last week.
Oh, I was afraid you'd say that. Boy, my memory sure did get curtailed. Anyway, you've got another story that is very pertinent to me because it's all about my ex-home state of Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Give us a little background about some of the idiocy that's going on up there.
Absolutely. So we represent Alexandra Liebel and Madeline Rissovy. They're both students at the university there. And the university requires, as part of its graduation requirements, that every student perform 30 hours of community service. And their policy specifically says that this service can suit their beliefs, preferences, and values. And they list a long list of examples for students to engage in community service. And many of these are, such as working with environmental action groups, or working with cultural awareness programs, or volunteering with political campaigns, or public interest organizations, or political watch groups. And so Madeline and Alexandra both have volunteered and performed 24 to 30 hours of community service in teaching at their local Roman Catholic Church, and they participate in this teaching second and third grade students about Roman Catholic doctrines and so forth. And Alexandra submitted those hours to the university for her community service requirement, and she was denied and told that the community service that she provided would not be accepted because it involved religious proselytizing or worship.
Right away, I'm very upset about this story, regardless of whether it's about a Roman Catholic church, a Lutheran church, a Presbyterian church, a Mormon church. Doesn't make any difference, because what right does the government have, like this school at the University of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to say and single out community service for church? Isn't that a slap in the face to our First Amendment?
Absolutely is. It's a slap in the face to many of our fundamental rights. Many of the examples included in the acceptable community service involve teaching students about various things, such as various cultures, various political groups, teaching them about reading. Many of the hours that Alexandra and Madeline both spent involved teaching their students. They read various things. They helped them with their reading and so forth. And so many of the skills and activities that they performed, our clients, are just the same as performed by the non-religious activities, and yet because these are religious activities, they are being discriminated against, and that's a violation of their First Amendment right to speech. It's a viewpoint discrimination as to speech. They're saying, we'll allow you to perform community service that speaks this message, but we're not going to allow you to perform community service that speaks a religious message. Non-religious, yes. Religious, no. And that's a violation of the First Amendment. That's upheld many, many times by the Supreme Court. It says that the government cannot discriminate based on a viewpoint. Again, universities are marketplaces of ideas. Those marketplaces, they depend on free, vigorous, and spontaneous debate. And when they stifle that kind of speech, then they stifle the First Amendment and a core purpose behind their own existence.
Are they using, they being the college, are they using the fictitious remark, the separation of church and state? Is that their argument? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. It's a little unclear exactly why they put this in the policy. And one of the problems with the policy itself is it's very vague. It grants the administrators at the university the ability to determine what they believe is promoting religious doctrine or proselytizing or worship. And so it allows them to be the arbiter, the censor, so to speak, as to what they believe is acceptable religious doctrine or worship and what's not. And they haven't specifically said that they're relying upon the Establishment Clause, but frankly, one of our causes of action in the complaint is a violation of the Establishment Clause, because the Supreme Court has made it very clear that not only can the government is not supposed to establish a church, but it cannot discriminate against religion under the Establishment Clause. So we believe not only is it not a violation for them to allow this, but it's actually a violation of the Establishment Clause for them to discriminate against religion in this manner.
Tyson, doesn't it just boggle your mind that a letter that was written by Thomas Jefferson to the Baptist Church regarding separation of church and state has been picked up by the liberals in our society like a little football, and they're running towards the goal line yelling, separation of church and state, separation of church and state. It was never an edict or anything passed by our government. Why have they been allowed to get away with this for so many years and nobody really hauls them on the carpet for something that has never been a government rule or regulation?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, there's a lot of different parts, different moving parts to answer that question. But unfortunately, in the establishment culture today, with especially in public universities, religion is viewed as kind of an unwanted and unbeneficial part of society, and it is excluded from student fee funding. We've got cases going on with that, where if you're a student group doing something religious, you can't get these mandatory student fees, but yet all this non-religious activity, which is doing the same thing. It is proselytizing. It's just doing it in a non-secular way. And they've somehow said that the religious proselytizing is different than a non-religious proselytizing. We don't believe it is. Again, here at the University of Wisconsin, they allow all sorts of involvement with activities which proselytize for environmental groups or for various cultural groups or for political groups, but they won't allow it for religion. And we believe that there's ample case law that says that is a violation, and that Alexandria and Madeline have the right to participate and to carry out the community service in a way that reflects their beliefs, their preferences, and their values, and that as religious students, they should not be punished for simply wanting to participate in a religious manner just as the non-religious students shouldn't be punished for wanting to participate in a non-religious meeting.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a very blunt question, and I know that if you don't want to respond, I'll understand, but for the last 8 years, I believe that we've seen this problem, per se, become bigger and bigger and infected, if you will, by some of the dictates and arguments from the Obama administration. And I hope that some of that will be stymied under Donald Trump. What are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely agree that the administrative branch, the executive branch, and some of the interpretations on how they carry it out through the various departments, such as the Department of Education and so forth, they have carried out a much broader interpretation of various congressional laws on these issues than we believe is allowed by the statute, and hopefully under the new administration, some of this overreach in the administrative branch will be pulled back, and states will have broader rights to enact things that and to carry out the policies in a way that they want to carry them out without the federal government intervening and imposing this nationwide mandate, which was not consistent with many of the laws that are on the books.
Tyson, let me ask you this, and I know this is a speculative question, but the students today on campuses all across the United States, are they more timid? Are they more are they less informed as to what their rights are? Do they not understand what they can and can do, so they don't fight back against these administrations that are trying to take away their freedoms? I mean, what really is the problem here?
I do believe that it's a lack of information. I think that there's a real lack of focus in the secondary education on the Constitution, on why it was drafted in the way that it was drafted, and why these protections are put in there, and why it's important for us to stand up for all speech, even for speech that we really disagree with, and that those people's views are protected, because when the government has the right to shut down their speech, they also have the right to shut down your speech. And so I think there's a lack of appreciation for that, and many students today believe that there's this so-called hate speech or some form of speech that is not protected, and that's just not true. There is no category of hate speech which somehow is unprotected, and so I think it's a lack of information. But at the same time, on college campuses, views for conservative views and views that are consistent with a Christian worldview, they're not accepted on campus, and so I think people who hold those views are less likely to speak out because they're afraid to be shouted down and so forth. But I speak to college students across the country, and I see a great number of them that will stand up and that will say, this is not right. And so we're thankful for students like Alexandra and Madeline that are saying, this is not right. This is a violation of my rights, and I'm going to stand up for this. And hopefully they can set precedent for others to also follow their lead and say, we want our constitutional rights to be protected.
Well, a week ago we were talking on a similar subject, and I guess I'm really kind of stumped as to if I were going to the University of Wisconsin and or the University of Minnesota right now as a student, as I was 50 years ago, I would have had somebody come up to me and said, well, you can't say this here, Mr. Bell, because you're not in a free speech zone. I would have said, because of my temperament at that time, and also now these many years later, I will say and do whatever I want as long as it's legal and not hurting anyone. I will say it anywhere I want. But these students seem to be kowtowed into running away and being shuttled into these zones. What are the repercussions or ramifications that they're being threatened with? It sounds like a Gestapo tactic.
Oh, absolutely. If you conduct on a campus that has a speech zone, if you are conducting whatever they deem to be unwelcome speech activities outside of that zone, they will ask you to stop, and if you don't stop, they'll tell you that they will arrest you for trespass. And we've represented clients and currently represent clients who have been arrested for trespass simply for talking with other students and passing out the Constitution and talking with them about their rights. They weren't interfering with pedestrian traffic. They weren't blocking access to classrooms or any buildings. They were simply several students wanting to talk with their fellow students about their rights. And so there is a definite fear, a very real fear, that if they violate those policies, they'll not only be arrested, but that's a violation of the student code of conduct in most of these, and you could be suspended or expelled from the university simply for exercising your First Amendment rights.
Wow. I'll tell you something. Is this problem, in your opinion, is it growing like a cancer? Are you nipping it in the bud, so to speak, now? What's going on?
Well, the good news is that when these policies are challenged, we have been very successful in getting them to be overturned by the court system. And so courts across the country have struck these policies down consistently. And so the key really is for students to recognize the policies on their campus that are bad and then to contact us and to assist them. And typically when that happens, we're able to prevail. And so that's the good news. The bad news is that schools, many of these are very large institutions that have good counsel. They're aware of these court rulings out there, yet they maintain these bad policies on the books, and that's the discouraging news. And so, we're trying to work with the universities and say, look, let's just pull these policies off the books and grant students the right to engage in a marketplace of ideas on campus. I mean, free speech on campus it's a no-brainer. Colleges are supposed to be a place where ideas are freely shared, not gagged.
Absolutely. Tyson, tell my audience how they can follow this story and many others with the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Absolutely. They can go online at adflegal.org. You can follow us on Facebook at Alliance Defending Freedom. And you'll find all kinds of information about our cases online and also about how to contact us if you have experienced any violation of your First Amendment rights also.
I absolutely applaud what you do, and thank you for coming on the program. Tyson Langhofer, thank you so much for being on the program, and we'll look forward to having you back again. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, sir. I really have a lot of appreciation for what the Alliance Defending Freedom does and what they represent. Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness, we got to get a weather forecast in. I'm almost running late again. My goodness, the weather is brought. I've got one fly in this studio that if he lands fairly close within the reach of my trusty green fly swatter, he is going to meet his demise. That thing has been buzzing around my mouth and around my microphone for the last interview, and that's it. His life is going to come to a screeching halt. Anyway, back to the weather. The weather brought to you this hour by Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin and Company CPAs, Curtis Pope, Todd Phillips, Rob Oaks, Mitch Goodwin, and Lyden Crane, and they've been providing accounting services to the Minicash area for well over 50 years. Oh boy, it's getting close to that time again. You need the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, retirement planning. They can help. They will help. With 2 locations to serve you, 1710 Overland in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb Ranch as we saddle up and ride again for the week. Mostly sunny skies for today. Absolutely beautiful. High of 64 with an overnight low of 35. For tomorrow, even better, sunny skies. High of 65 with an overnight low of 38. Now for Wednesday, everything's going to be changing. Going to feel like November, actually. Rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are picking up. High of 42 with an overnight low of 26. Thursday, we do have a chance of morning snow showers, plus winds are going to be picking up to about 25 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 42. That is your weather for Zev at the Ranch.
Whoa, changes on the horizon. I'm telling you, look out. And the weather brought to you this hour by Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, and Company, CPAs. Don't forget, close to the end of the year, you need expert advice. They can help. They will help. Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, and Company, CPAs. Get a hold of them today. Oh, goodness, we got time for your phone calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One of the stories that I heard this morning that just makes me so mad, and it just makes my fist clench, is that the abrasive attitude, the very abrasive and who cares attitude of ISIS, these vermin killers, these human beings destitute of any value whatsoever, have now made major threats and are calling for a bloodbath against us on Thanksgiving Day. There have been major warnings from some of the intercepted messages, etc., that maybe they are targeting the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. With all the numbers of people and the festivities and the pre-holiday, the pre-Christmas, everything, ISIS goes out and blatantly tells us that may be one of their targets because they're asking for more blood running in the streets of American citizens. You know, this problem has to be curbed. These vermin need to be squashed out once and forever. And their ideology has to be completely, cancerously killed. And I know so many people back east that every year they absolutely put forth a huge effort, some of business people, to be a part of that huge Macy's parade. I know that they've got their families flying in and everything, and I fear for them. I fear for everybody at any kind of an activity going into this holiday season. What are your thoughts about these blatant open threats from ISIS saying that they want to see blood running in American streets on Thanksgiving? This administration, if you want to call it that we've had for 8 years, I point my finger at them. Obama at the top of the list. And I condemn them for a do nothing, say nothing, and activate nothing against these vermin. What are your thoughts? Give me a call, please, at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Well, I'm waiting for your call. I want to remind you, attention dairymen, if you're thinking of remodeling or building new structures, wow, now is the time to get a hold of my friend Tim over at Streamline Precision. They specialize in dairy parlors, free stalls, commodity storage facilities, maternity barns. All you have to do is call Tim Vaughn. This man is so nice. This man is so talented. He will help you. 431-7314. 431-7314. Tim Vaughn, your no-cost analysis and design, Streamline Precision. Call them today. Well, I'm surprised. No calls? Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. In another short story, and I kind of touched on a little bit ago this morning about the NFL. And I am an avid, always have been, pro football fan. It's waning this year for many reasons. Number one, my Green Bay Packers are playing lousy. They're 4-5, and it looks like the only chance they've got to go to the playoffs is to buy a ticket and sit in the stands. But the NFL is suffering from much lower attendance. Did you, this weekend, like me, scan the dial and look at the various games? Did you see some of the synopsis of the games, like at halftimes, and they showed the grandstands, the big stands and everything of these huge coliseums? There's a lot of empty seats. TV viewing of the NFL is down substantially, which means sponsor money is going to be starting to go much lower going into next year's 2017 season. And a lot of it all stems from one person's totally disrespectful attitude. And that's Colin Kaepernick of the San Francisco 49ers. My contempt and outright hatred of what he has done, I think, not all of it is going to be put on his shoulders. I'm not saying that. But a large percentage of the NFL, National Football League, and the lower attendance and the lower viewing is because people absolutely have more respect for America, and they won't sit and honor a product that doesn't respect America back. Many of the NFL games have covered up the national anthem. Many of the NFL games are skipping to commercials during the anthem, or they're going to camera shots of the booth announcers before the game. And I find that despicable, and all the more reason why I personally have turned off almost 60% of my viewing of the NFL. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I've pretty well quit totally watching this show. The football deal, they ought to have a little bit of pride for these guys that give up their lives for us so we can do what we want to do, my opinion is they're overpaid, kind of a bunch of spoiled brats. There is some good ones, but most of them are overpaid and don't deserve to have it.
Well, here's another thing to remember, that with lower viewing, lower attendance, lower sponsorships, guess who's going to suffer in the long run? It's the players themselves, because those owners aren't going to negotiate big, high, multi-million-dollar contracts when the money's not there on the other side of the fence.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that if the owners, they ought to get together and say, hey, we ought to have a little respect for these veterans that give their lives for us.
Absolutely. I appreciate your call. God bless you, sir. Good to hear from you again. Thank you.
You too.
All right, sir. Thanks. He's right. And a lot of these owners, I didn't see this at all during the World Series in baseball. When the Indians lined up on one sideline and the Cubs lined up on the other sideline, many of the players they showed on close-up camera shots were singing along with the national anthem with their hands over their hearts, black and white players. But when I saw, like yesterday, another player sitting on the bench during the national anthem, Kaepernick and his antics have started this. And woe betide these players when it comes up for contract negotiation. Because, quite frankly, the owners ought to have the backbone and the spine to say, you were a major cause of the declination of the success of our league and also the sponsorships. And so, therefore, Buckwheat, you're not going to get the increase in your salary that you think you deserve. You're going to take what we offer, or you're out of here. That is a stand the owners have to take. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, but right now we're going to get set to have Wheels pick this up and carry it across the goal line for our CBS News in just a couple of minutes. Then we're going to come back and talk about energy with Katie Brown with the Energy and Deaf people. And then at 10:30 this morning, I've got Matt Condi coming on the program from the AAA telling me, hey, how come Idaho's being selected as paying more for their gasoline? Don't forget, we'll have more. Zeb at the Ranch, stay tuned. All righty, here we go. Last hour for a Monday. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. We're going to have our guest with us in just a few minutes, but I want to remind you, too, about our dear friends at Streamline Precision. Attention, attention, farmers and dairymen. Streamline Precision offers pre-engineered steel buildings made for long life and use on your operation. I'm telling you what, the best value per foot in the industry. Local builders supporting local farms, dairies, and commercial businesses, and you'd better book now for winter installation. It's easy. Call my dear friend Tim Vaughn. I'll tell you, old Tim and the rest of the crew are going to, and they will serve you. 431-7314. Write that number down on the dash of your pickup or on the refrigerator. Call him right away. 431-7314. The best building for you, Streamline Precision. You call them right now. Also want to remind you, too, about a great big cattle sale. This is going to be one of the best in the state, where quality always comes first. Bull and female sale up at the Melson, Angus, and Hereford Ranch. And the best of bulls and females going to be on sale, and they're going to have the 19th of November junior fitting and showing at 11 a.m., followed by lunch and a buyer's social. Then the next day, Saturday the 20th, a tri-tip lunch at noon. The sale starts at 1 p.m. Don't miss it. They're located 3135 Elmore Road between Parma and Fruitland. Number to call for more information, 208-739-0725. The best. Quality always comes first at this great big bull and female sale at the Molson, Angus, and Hereford Ranch up between Parma and Fruitland. Let's go to the phone line right now, and we say good morning to Katie Brown with Energy in Depth. Good morning, Katie. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you.
Okay. We've had a big changing of the guard. Hopefully a changing of attitude. I am so sick and tired of this. Pardon me?
Yes, we have.
Well, I wanted to preface my remarks by saying I'm so sick and tired of this attitude of leave it in the ground, don't touch any of the assets that God has given this great country, and basically pay more through the nose on just wind and solar idiocy. What's going on in your opinion? Are we going to see some radical changes?
I think we are. What happened in the election is that voters overwhelmingly rejected this Keep It in the Ground movement and everything that it stands for. We saw in the Rust Belt states, we saw union workers voting against that agenda at every turn. Now we're seeing activists like Josh Fox tweeting that he's worried about the Keep It in the Ground movement. So you can see that there was a huge defeat for this kind of extreme activism towards energy.
But Katie, you know more about this than I do by far, but I don't think that these left-wing nuts are going to go silently into the good night. Do you?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, after the election, they tweeted that they're going to keep fighting harder and harder. So this fight isn't going away anytime soon, but it is a huge referendum on their agenda and what it all stands for.
Well, what is their agenda? What is their referendum? What is their common sense in really breaking the back financially of Americans that want to bring an industrialized society back to this country and make it stronger? I mean, what in the world? Anybody with any common sense knows that we've got all the rules and regulations for the environment, but they're not going to do anything to lessen those, but these people don't want anything done in this country.
Yeah, well, what you said, what is their agenda? Their agenda would actually be to destroy all of these energy jobs, to make your gas and electricity prices double. We know this because the U.S. Chamber of Commerce just released a report saying that if we banned fracking across the nation, we'd lose about 15 million jobs, and families would have to pay thousands more a year in just living expenses because their gas and electricity prices would double. So that's not something that people want. They completely rejected that agenda over this election.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, Katie. With the election of Donald Trump and a lot of things that he said during the election process about being against climate change, being against the left and their assault on the coal industry, and being against these extremely stupid energy programs, what do you think's going to happen? Is he going to be able to make America great again through a stronger energy program?
Well, what you said about climate was interesting because what we have seen over and over throughout the past few years is that without, signing on to these climate treaties or anything like that, we didn't sign on to Kyoto. We haven't gotten a cap and trade system. We haven't done any of those things, and yet our emissions have gone down considerably. And at the same time, we've become the number one oil and gas producer in the world. And so what's better for our environment and our economy? What's better is to keep producing natural gas to improve the environment, and it will also improve our economy as well. And so hopefully that's what this new administration will do. But we shall see.
Well, you mentioned about these climate accords, et cetera, and the Kyoto Treaty, et cetera, but what about the most recent with the Paris Climate Change Agreement, et cetera? I've read various articles in the Wall Street Journal and also in USA Today that a lot of these people are running around saying the sky is falling, Trump's the new president, and our Paris Climate Accord might go down the tubes. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that you're right. That, but the important point about that is actually that it was never a binding agreement anyway, and so it'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out. But again, the important point is that we're reducing our emissions anyway, and we're reducing it because we are the number one oil and gas producer in the world, and that's highly connected, and it's an important point.
Katie, what about this mess back in the Dakotas with the Indian tribes and the protesting of the Dakota Access Pipeline, a pipeline that had been approved years ago? It met every environmental standard, everything, and then all of a sudden the Indian tribes decided on behalf of the liberal left that they would try to fight it. The same is what happened with Keystone. I mean, are we going to see an overcoming of these things and tell these people to just bug off and let these pipelines go through?
Oh, you cut out there for a minute, but what's very interesting is that the unions have very strongly supported these pipelines, including the Keystone XL pipeline and the Dakota Access Pipeline. And unions voted against the Keep It in the Ground agenda this time. For instance, Trump won a majority of union members in Ohio by about 52%. That's a huge swing towards Republicans because in 2012 he only won about 37%, or Romney only won about 37%. So you can see a huge swelling of support for energy development in these Rust Belt states like Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, all of these states, and that's very telling of where America stands on energy development and how they support it, and they want this infrastructure so that we can continue becoming an energy powerhouse.
One of the subjects that you're really very educated in, of course, is fracking. And the Hollywood, or I should say Hollyweird set, like Matt Damon and others, have come out against fracking, and they've done all they can to denigrate it. What has been the general mood of the fracking industry since the election last Tuesday?
Yes, it was a very big upset for the Hollywood elites who want to ban fracking, like Mark Ruffalo, who's been very involved in this campaign. Leonardo DiCaprio, all of these guys who want us to keep it all in the ground, and they tried to use their celebrity status to persuade American people, and the American people rejected it. That was very clear.
What, overall, as you look at, and of course Trump won't take office until mid-January, but when you look at this situation with Obama, he's still got 66 days left. Do you anticipate that this man will try to sign some evil against the energy programs in this country, or is he basically going to fade away? What are your thoughts?
Well, a lot of articles that are coming out are saying that he's going to try and finalize as much as he can before he leaves. But then the question remains, what will Trump do with that? I know that there are several options available to him in order to perhaps reject some of those regulations. Congress can vote to disapprove of them if they have been issued within 60 days, so that's one option. Or he can also just instruct his agencies to revisit these regulations. That's a much longer and more complicated process. But it will be very interesting to see how it all plays out.
How about you, Katie? Are you optimistic that maybe, just maybe with this Trump administration, we can right the course of a ship that has been headed over Niagara Falls and we can start to grow as a nation again with a better energy program?
Well, I think it's very important for us as a nation to have a pro-energy anti-keep-it-in-the-ground agenda, and that is good for the environment, and it's good for the economy, and Americans support it. And so all of these things coming together mean hopefully that we'll be moving in the right direction.
I hope so, too. Katie, I really appreciate you coming on the program this morning. You're always welcome. Katie Brown with Energy in Depth. Thank you, and please know that I'll be calling you again in the near future. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Thank you. Katie Brown with the Energy in Depth. And it's true when you pick up various newspapers, whether it's the Wall Street Journal or whether it's the very liberal USA Today, a lot of stories where people are quaking and shaking. Oh, what's Donald Trump going to do? Oh, what's going to happen to the Paris Climate Accord? All this kind of stuff. But you know something? This is good. I'm glad to see these people that have been thugs and absolute acting like mafia for years. You can't do this, you can't drive there, you can't burn that, you can't do this, etc. Now they're wondering, whoa, wait a minute, maybe we better back up and kind of count our numbers. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
I wanted to talk to that lady, but that's all right. I give you the idea, but I still don't understand. I really don't care for pipelines going through the United States. I don't understand why they couldn't build a couple of refineries up in the north, and instead of piping that oil clear through the United States, what they want to do, they want to get it down into the Gulf Coast or into the ships and take it out of the country. Just build some refineries up there and then put a short pipeline into those refineries up in the north where there's no tornadoes and what have you. Every time there's a tornado, they raise the price of gas, use that for an excuse. This is my thoughts, and I don't understand. You don't even hear it mentioned.
Well, now wait a minute, Dwayne. I'm not going to arbitrate with you at all because I have a tendency to agree with you somewhat. But let's not have clouded tunnel vision, because the Keystone and the Dakota Access Pipeline, they're not the only two. There are literally thousands of pipelines that go across this country, so we can't really condemn two for the sake of thousands of others. But I agree with you that maybe there's a better way to manage this, and maybe there's a more efficient way to build the refineries like you said. But as you know, Dwayne, the EPA has brought down the gavel on any new refineries. They have had their powers that have been gifted to them, and they've said no for years, and that might be one of the problems. No more refineries.
Well, hopefully those days are going to be gone, and the Congress, well, we have Republicans in the same pocket as some of the Democrats, but hopefully they can get things done in that area. And if they did have refineries closer, they wouldn't have to pipe in. They just truck it in straight to the refinery.
Well, you know as well as I do, though, my dear friend, that for years, even prior to Obama becoming president, there was a hue and cry across the environmental landscape. No more refineries. We're going to fight. We're going to stop it. We're going to put money into this account like Tom Steyer's and others. So trying to say that they're going to build new refineries has been an idea that absolutely has been stopped dead in its tracks.
Well, like I said, hopefully those days are gone and they'll start wising up. It'd make our country more secure. It'd bring the price of gas down. It'd help in a lot of ways. And I think the oil companies, they like taking it to the Gulf Coast and shipping it out of the country. They're making money off of it. And what's his name? Buffett. He's making money with the railroad hauling oil from north down to the south. It's all. I hope Trump gets right in the middle of that. I hope he puts Sarah Palin in there.
Well, you know, that is a name that's been cast around quite a few days, the last few days, in regards to having her be the energy secretary. I'm not opposed to it because, boy, we've seen what happened up in Alaska with the environmentalists, et cetera. And, Dwayne, it's good to hear from you again. How you been feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I still got a few things wrong. They don't know what the heck it is, something in my lungs, but that other deal, my kidney is doing great.
All right.
100 years old.
Well, you just know that we keep you in our thoughts and prayers, and it's good to hear from you again. Thank you so much.
Put a pitch in for transplants. They are doing a lot of good.
All right,
Not
sir.
Just with us old folk, but a lot of kids are being saved with these transplants.
Absolutely. Well, God's blessings to you, and thanks for your call.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Good to hear him back on the air. He used to call quite a bit, and I know he's had some health problems, and we wish him well. Hey, by the way, I'll take some more calls, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about any one of the subjects we talked about this morning. But I want to remind you on Thursdays, we have a segment on this program called Cassia County School Days, and it's brought to you by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Oh, my goodness. It's that time of year. Be thinking about gift giving, all the toys, family games, books, puzzles, everything right there at A Child's World. And of course, too, they've got a lot of the clothes, all the new outfits for babies and toddlers, and it's there. A family store, A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. Along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. For your outpatient surgeries, you can save money. That's right, they've been saving Magic Valley neighbors hundreds of dollars on outpatient surgery for over 16 years. Whether it's colonoscopies, whether it's sinus surgery, whatever, please call them and find out more. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County on Thursdays. Don't miss it. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One of the most frustrating individuals on television, to me, is Geraldo Rivera. You know, let's call it the way it is. His name originally, when he started in the news business and also being a correspondent and everything, was Jerry Rivers. But then he saw that he could get a lot more mileage out of the name Geraldo Rivera, and he claims that he's a Republican conservative. Well, every time I've heard him on most any newscast, he's the furthest thing from a Republican, that platform, and far from being a conservative. Well, he came out this weekend and said something that I almost threw a boot right through my TV screen. He said that Hillary has suffered enough and that Obama should preemptively pardon her. Think about those words. Hillary has suffered enough through her own choices, by the way, and that Obama should preemptively pardon her. In other words, well, nothing's been proven, there's no litigation, there's no court trial, etc., but, whoa, wait a minute, we better preemptively pardon her just in case. What kind of a Republican conservative, or anybody of any moral value, when there's been discrepancies and illegalities, would come out and say that that person has suffered enough and that the president currently, Obama, should pardon her? You know, I don't know, maybe you don't agree. Maybe you think that, oh, well, poor Hillary. Why, all these sins and transgressions came out during the election process, and, oh, she suffered enough. I don't think she suffered at all. I think that when there's illegalities, regardless of when, people should be brought to justice and pay for their crimes against a society. Whether it's illicit money with the Clinton Foundation or whatever it might be, that she should have to pay. But to say that she's suffered enough and that Obama should take a stroke of the pen and say she's free and clear, what are your thoughts? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I would love to hear what your thinking is. While I'm waiting for your calls, got to turn the page here, I want to remind you about some more of these great businesses that are going to be saying happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, like Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South 600 West of Paul. Thank you for all your business. And don't forget, she's got gift certificates over there that make great Christmas presents. Call Vicky on her cell phone, 431-5667. Vicky's Country Garden. Along with Pickett Equipment Company, 976 East Main in Burley. Boy, these are the great, great folks that know all about farming. Very innovative pieces of equipment, too, that have really helped agriculture in southern Idaho and the world for years. Pickett Equipment Company wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving. Along with our friends at AMI, 719 Overland in Burley, look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door and go nuts over their bolts. Alan and Corey, Eric, Rob, the rest of the crew wish you a very happy Thanksgiving at AMI. Caller, I've got about 2 minutes. Go ahead. Good morning.
Okay, let's talk about General Petraeus. You know, he kind of got railroaded compared to what the way they do things. But, you know, and then there's this young sailor that just took some pictures, and he's in prison for a year. Do we feel sorry for him? I do, because I think he was treated unjustly. I think she should have a comfortable chair hooked up with electricity.
Okay. All right, Keith, I know your opinion. I'm going to take one other quick call before I send it back over to our station. Thank you. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. I've got about 40 seconds.
Good morning, and I just want to express our gratitude for the Mount Harrison School and whoever else was involved with that for the wonderful dinner that they provided for the veterans the other day. It was wonderful, and also to Dave Finster for the great Dutch oven cooking that he did. It was very much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, that was very nice of you to call. Thank you, and best wishes to those folks in the future, too. Well done. Well done. Thank you very much. I've got to send this back over to our main studio, and then we'll come back. We're going to have an interesting conversation with AAA and the spokesperson, Matt Conde, coming up on why are the gas prices here so much higher than other places. Stay tuned. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour. And you, if you're like me, I've traveled all over the United States. And when I come home, I've looked at the gas pump and said, wait a minute, how come we're paying 30, 40 cents a gallon in some cases more than other locations. Well, we've got a gentleman on the program this morning that is with AAA of Idaho, and that's Matt Conde. I'm going to call him Matt. Maybe he wants to be called Matthew. We'll find out. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Zeb, pleasure to be with you. How are you today?
Well, I got to admit that I'm a little frustrated, sir. I feel like we, the pump players, if you will, at the gas stations around the state of Idaho, have been kind of hosed a little bit by these prices. Am I wrong or am I right?
Well, there's good prices on the way, but the process is agonizingly slow. Our geography has a lot to do with that.
Okay, well, elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure thing. So we have some distribution that comes out of Salt Lake City, and when that supply reaches us, it's a fixed amount, fairly speaking. And so what happens when there's unplanned situations like refinery maintenance and pipeline problems, those things all combine, and some of that supply gets rerouted. So some of that supply ends up in eastern Washington or over in Nevada when these California refineries are down for their seasonal maintenance. And there was just kind of a perfect storm this last couple of weeks where the pipeline that was coming down through Washington State and into Oregon was down because they had to prolong their maintenance schedule due to a possible typhoon that was coming through. So lots of different things all hitting at once, and where we would normally have seen some nice savings by now, we're still standing at the edge and looking over.
Okay. Matt, now come on. I'm not pointing my finger at you, but I'm pointing my finger at the situation. And at the same time, you say that, well, Idaho's on the low end of the food chain, and we had these problems. There was a possible typhoon, et cetera, et cetera. How come a state like Montana, far removed from anything, why are their prices cheaper than ours?
Well, they have their own refineries, Zeb. So they're able to get some of that local hometown discount, so to speak.
Well, what about Salt Lake City, 250?
With our situation, we're waiting on the pipeline to come through, but I'm with you. It can be very frustrating that we lag so far behind, sometimes months behind, the action that's happening in the market, even across the rest of the U.S.
Well,
we look today at pump prices, and we see states that are below $2 a gallon. There's 9 of them out there today. And we definitely want our shot at it. Hopefully, coming into the holiday season, we'll see some of those benefits, but it does take a lot longer here, I do admit.
Okay, now, Matt, one other thing, too. I've kept kind of a very unprofessional chart, if you will, of high gas prices for years in correlation with the per barrel cost. And we've seen the per barrel cost drop down to $44.07 in the past couple of weeks, and even lower in some instances. And that should equivalent to where gas is at the pump with even all the taxes at $1.65 to $1.70. What's going on?
Well, one of the things that happens with the lag that we were speaking of, the crude prices drop, the wholesale prices drop, and there's a slow ripple effect that reaches some of these retailers. But you're right, the retailers are definitely taking their cut of the action as well. So when they know that prices are going to drop, they're not necessarily going to be a good neighbor and drop prices immediately. They're going to hold on because the fuel that they've already paid and committed for is more expensive. So they are holding on a little bit longer, and then, of course, there's opportunity to possibly make money on the spread. And that's where we have to be watchful and make sure that we aren't seeing any suspicious activity out there.
Matt, explain something else to me. Why is diesel so much more expensive than, in most cases, regular unleaded? And why do they not publish diesel prices the same as they do gasoline prices?
Well, diesel is an interesting situation there. So diesel was historically seen and priced as the byproduct of making regular fuel. And so this fuel, diesel, was the farmer's friend. It was the trucker's friend because it was a cheaper byproduct fuel. It was priced reasonably, and it stayed that way for many years. What's happened is new markets have expanded across Europe, And the United States now exports far more diesel than it actually consumes here in the U.S. So it's a simple matter of the supply going elsewhere, and the remaining supply is therefore pricier. And by the time it reaches the farmer or the truck driver, it has a higher price.
What about the EPA? Where do they play a big five-card stud game in this program? The EPA has caused us most of our problems, has it not?
Well, there's been a high amount of regulation, and your listeners know all about that. I'm sure you've continued to inform them of what we're looking at, but it's a difficult climate right now. The more strings that are attached and the more hoops to jump through, it does raise pressure to get it right price-wise. And so those fees and those risks and those possible penalties, those things all come into play, and the market has to guard against that, and certainly down into the refineries and distributors as well.
Let's talk a little bit about refineries. We were talking about this a couple of segments ago. What about the EPA? What about their thumbs down on refineries? Now that we've seen a transition and a change to the Trump administration starting up in January, are we going to see some of these environmentalists go jump out of basement windows because they're not always going to get their way? What's going to happen?
Well, I think you're going to see a reversal of fortune for some of those programs. There's been definitely an aggressive push under the previous administration. In some cases, one might argue there was a ready, fire, aim mentality in some of those cases. And now there will be an opportunity to look at things more from a business perspective, someone who has been in the private sector and had experience in some of those areas would have a different outlook than someone who doesn't have that. So I think that this administration, as it comes together, could have a very business-friendly outlook, and I think that that's something that we'll have to keep a close eye on.
Let me talk to you a little bit about the AAA itself. I mean, what do you do? What are you there for, and what is the AAA?
Well, for over 100 years, Zeb, we've been looking out for motorists in a variety of ways. We've continued to adapt as they have wanted more from us. And you can imagine in the early 1900s, a vehicle going out wasn't the most reliable to get back. And so auto clubs formed all over the country, and these clubs looked out for each other. They had a mandate to care for each other, to help each other with parts, to help each other get somewhere safely. And so these auto clubs grew more and more popular until they aligned so that they could pool resources. And AAA was born out of a number of these clubs coming together. And our mission has stayed unchanged since then, to advocate for motorists. We do a lot of legislative work and we push for lots of funding and support to keep the roadways safe for all of us, to keep the roadways moving so that we have the commerce and the safety all in one.
Okay.
And along the way, we've done other things with travel services and insurance and a variety of other things, but those have all been things that the motorist has been looking for us to do.
Okay, now, Matt, just a minute. When you hear the moo of a cow on my program, it means we have a call. Caller, your question for Mr. Condi. Please go ahead.
Mr. Condi, can you answer this? Sinclair, Wyoming, where the refinery is, there's a truck stop there, and why is their fuel and gasoline as much or more than it is anywhere else in Wyoming? That's what I want to know.
Okay, Matt, if you'd answer that, I'd appreciate it. Go ahead.
I'd be glad to, but I'm sorry with the connection. I'm not sure I heard it completely.
He said with the refinery in Wyoming, and there's a huge truck stop almost right next door to it, why are people paying so much more on a percentage basis per gallon over there right next to the refinery?
Well, and that would again speak to the factors of supply and demand, not just distribution. So having supply, even having it be close, there's going to be weird paradoxes like that, and I do admit that it's an oxymoron to have a refinery right next to a truck stop and see something like that, but it does happen when you look at the broader economic scale of things.
Matt, do you think that these lower prices, and I put that in parentheses, hopefully they're going to go a lot lower, and stimulate tourism, stimulate better business, stimulate more business, are they going to be short-lived, or is this going to be a trend, let's say for another decade, of having more reasonably priced energy prices?
We would suspect that so much depends on how the Arab nations react. They have a tight fist on so much of the world's supply. And as we know, they're going to be meeting again in November, late November, and they'll be deciding what they want to do. Now, if they can form a true alliance and come up with a production freeze, that's going to impact everybody. But on a more positive note, when those things start to happen, it does allow the American drillers to go out and get more production because, comparatively speaking, it becomes more economically wise to do that. So there's lots of different factors at play, but we're waiting to see what OPEC will do. And some of that will be how this administration connects with them, what the world holds them to as far as the standards that they're going to come up with. But Iran and Iraq, for example, have been really reluctant to enter into negotiations to freeze production, which has frustrated Saudi Arabia and some of the other nations, and so they're continuing to pump at record rates until somebody gets some kind of a so-called fair agreement amongst them. But it is a cartel, and it does function like one.
Let me ask you this, Matt. How far are we, the United States, with what happened up in the Dakotas and northern Montana? How far are we, the United States, from being energy self-reliant so that we could tell the camel jockeys to sit at the oasis and sip water?
Well, you have an alignment right now, the so-called trifecta with the House, the Senate, and the presidency all aligned, and it creates an opportunity to pass very quickly some widespread and wide-scaled changes. So it's something that has been contested for years, various pipelines that have been proposed and struck down and moved and mismanaged, or depending on how you look at it, managed correctly. It's just all tug of war. But obviously now there'll be much less tug of war, and so there may be some freedom. The Republicans have been historically more open to the tapping into new energy sources and maximizing their production. So it would be interesting to see what that all transpires with in the next year or so.
It seems like whatever happens in the Straits of Hormuz, so goes the rest of the world with worrying and fretting and the tearing their hair out, worrying about whether or not Iraq or Iran is going to have anything as a negotiable product for the world to buy. Why are we so concerned about the economics of that area?
Well, when they have strong economies over there, the argument you would make from a diplomatic standpoint is that when the economies are stronger over there, there is less tolerance for disruption, meaning possibly terrorist activity, meaning possibly unstable governments, things of that nature. So when those countries are stable economically, they may tend to be stable in other ways, and that may lead to other benefits potentially. So it's all in perspective, but that's kind of one argument that you can look at.
You know, Matt, you're very well versed. How long have you been with the AAA?
Well, it's funny. I've just been in Idaho for the last 4 or 5 months. I was doing something similar down in Medford, Oregon, if you've had the pleasure.
Yes.
And just was working there, overseeing some travel agents and insurance agents, and the public affairs part of it was kind of a sideline, but something that I really enjoyed and was excited when opportunity came to come help out over here.
Well, you do a great job, and I certainly do appreciate your coming on the program this morning. Matt Conde with the AAA of Idaho. You know I've got your number, and you know I'm going to call you back, and you know if gas doesn't get down below $2, I'm going to be climbing all over your telephone. Thank you.
I'll be counting on it, Zeb.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Matthew Condi with the AAA. He's the Public and Government Affairs Manager, and talking about why we're paying more at the pump right here locally and in the state of Idaho than most other regions of the West. Okay. It irritates me, believe me. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Weather forecast. Boy, this is going to change. Scarrows Meats brings us the weather, and they're located at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. And you know what? They can help you with all your wild game meats, too. You know, they can make them into a variety of salamis and brats and jerky and breakfast sausage. Oh, yes. Get a hold of them today. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Don Scarrow and the crew, 324-7657. Right now, here's the lovely Gina with the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch as we saddle up and ride again for the week. Mostly sunny skies for today. Absolutely beautiful. High of 64 with an overnight low of 35. For tomorrow, even better, sunny skies. High of 65 with an overnight low of 38. Now for Wednesday, everything's going to be changing. Going to feel like November, actually. Rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are picking up. High of 42 with an overnight low of 26. Thursday, we do have a chance of morning snow showers, plus winds are going to be picking up to about 25 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 42. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I don't want snow. I know we need it. But boy, yours truly, snow when you're on crutches and you can cover all 4 points of the compass in one easy fall. Don't like it. Thank you. Anyway, the weather brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Your hometown custom meat processor for over 20 years. Scarrows Meats, changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Okay, your turn, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, quick note, Lunch Bunch is this Thursday. Yep, it is. And our thanks go out again to Smith's Food, Hanson Mortuary, Walmart, Stokes Groceries, for our gift cards. Thank you. We do appreciate it for our door prizes. And it's going to be at Denny's Restaurant this Thursday, 611 Overland in Burley. Thomas and Terry, the whole crew serving us right there at Denny's. Food is fantastic, and we have a ball. Zeb's Lunch Bunch coming up this Thursday at 11:30. You be there. Okay, now it's your turn. Your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I urge you to be very, very wary about what's going on with the liberal left, especially with people like former Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis and many others that are coming out with a hue and cry across the land saying, oh, we've got to dump the Electoral College. Please be informed, read and study what the Electoral College is and why it was started in the first place, and if it were reversed and taken away, who would benefit the most. And I can tell you this, it sure wouldn't be us. And it wouldn't be our state of Idaho. Nor would it be advantageous for the state of Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada. Their voices, our voices, would be nullified. So if you want to be informed and you want to have a good argument against some of these left zanies that want to take the Electoral College and throw it away, read up on it, study it, and have a good answer for them. Okay? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
I heard the best analogy of an electoral college the other day. It's like the World Series, like the Cubs and the Indians. Say the first game, the Indians beat the Cubs by 10 runs, 10-0. Then the next game, the Cubs won 1-0. The third game, they won 1-0, and the fourth game and the fifth game, so on. So that means the Cubs' total score was 4 points for the series. The Indians had 10, so the Indians won.
That's a good analogy. What it does, and a lot of people don't realize it, Doug, I know you do, is that it would give your population centers, i.e. L.A., San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Chicago, New York, it gives those high populous centers the vote over all of us as flyover country. And the masses would control the vote, would it not?
This is true. It gives the Democratic-controlled cities the most votes.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, why would the Democrats want to push it if it wouldn't benefit them?
Oh, gee golly, I couldn't have a clue.
I know, but when I heard that deal with the World Series, that made the best sense. And if I remember right, wasn't the Electoral College started when the slaves were in the South?
Oh, way back with our forefathers, because the states questioned the forming of how the vote was going to go, and they said, wait a minute, our smaller states with marginal population, we can't vote and have our voices heard with all the people back here in Boston and other places.
Exactly, and with the South, when they had all the slaves, well, they had the population, but the slaves couldn't vote.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's why it's there.
Well, I just urge people to read, study, and comprehend, and don't follow like a calf learning how to lead in a halter for a 4-H project. Don't follow the left over a cliff.
Exactly, because once they learn how to lead in a 4-H project, once they get fat, you know what happens.
Yeah. Doug, got to run. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. All right. Hey, don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and they've got a great winter driving resource guide. You better go get one because it sounds like about Wednesday or Thursday we're going to need it. And I'll tell you what, they've got all the tires for all your safe driving this winter, whether it's on dry conditions, rainy conditions, snow, or ice. And all the tires, all the tread designs, you stop in and talk to them today at all 7 locations, along with all the tire chains, the best in brake service, the best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, everything for you with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I've only got 30 seconds. Real fast. Go.
Okay. I think that they ought to change the electoral college over to landmass rather than population.
Why would you say that?
Well, that way, the flyover country, as they call it, would have more authority than they have now.
But you know what? All things considered, let's just leave the electoral college alone. Wouldn't you say that?
Well, that's the best, but if we're going to change it, let's change it that way.
Okay, buddy. Hey, it's good to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
Yep.
Got to run. Thank you. Landmass. Concept I got to think about. I got to run. And tomorrow I got to run. That's an oxymoron. Tomorrow on the program, real quick, what have we got? We've got Dr. History. We've got Christina Huff talking about the TPP. We've got all kinds of good guests. Tune in, 8:06. We'll ride the horse for 3 hours right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And I wish you well. The way things were or the way things ought to be. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning.